There was a time when it seemed like a good idea to make a romantic comedy where an American actress plays an excitable, clumsy British woman, and in 2008, Camilla Leslie and Catherine Chandler had a go. This is Misconception. You don't want to watch this, but I'll do it for you. So it's all about Georgina, who really wants to get pregnant. And this is set up with all the subtlety of an unprepared metaphor.
Rebecca's had a baby. Your sister had a baby. A brand new little baby. Yay.
These thoughts of babies really get her into fuck mode, but annoyingly, live-in boyfriend Zach uses contraception.
Do we have to?
Yeah.
But Zach is soon to go off on an expedition, filming something or other with an attractive assistant, which is useful for the contrived plot.
Couldn't you work with someone unattractive?
I like that. They're trope savvy. She is directly pointing out the weak-ass plot point. But he can't leave without setting up the unconvincing friction that causes the movie's plot. It's an argument about babies and the being ready to have thereof.
You can't keep avoiding the issue and hope that everything will be fine. Just tell me, why do you hate?
I do not hate babies, okay?
You have everything. You have money.
You can see how this was written before the recession. Romantic comedies are so often about these magical Londoners who never have to worry about poverty. In London. And there's a film-exclusive serenity to the environment. Like, I've been to London, and the background music wasn't always this agreeable, you know. The stakes are low, everything is fine except for the single not fine thing that drives the film's plot. So this stuff, the making babies stuff, is going to be a common disagreement within couples. Some people specifically want to make children, some people don't, some people specifically don't. And unless we're very lucky when pairing off, somebody's going to end up compromising. You can see how this is of particular frustration to a straight woman nearing the end of her fertility who's been taught that reproduction is essential.
All right, we'll talk.
I don't want to talk to a babyophobe. I've had enough. If you won't give me what I need, then I'll find someone else who will, Zach Solomon. You mark my words.
Come on, it's not like he's the devil. And thus, plot. Though I don't know who she expects to find down a country lane. Zach's resistance to reproduction is really feeble and underdeveloped. He's just not quite ready yet. They could probably talk this out and not bother having a movie. Like he just offered to. Luckily, being a man in a romantic comedy, Zach has a gross Scottish best friend he can stay with and get sage, blunt, misogynistic advice from.
You should never have put the words hate and baby in the same sentence. When they hit a certain age, they get funny about babies and shite.
Thanks, Ben. On behalf of your country. And Georgina is off to her job. Her construction company, named after her, that she manages in this really carefree way. Will Meller, as disgusting as ever, plays a construction worker. The only one who's not an unconvincing off-screen voice.
Morning, Brian.
Morning, boss.
Watch your hair, you big ghost blouse.
Then, just as we've established her going to work, she's immediately out shopping with her mum. Presents for the baby. The film seems to have the ethos of each scene giving the exact detail it needs to drive the plot, and no more, and often not even that. A ridiculously big baby stuff store, so many flaws, is where she's scared by an infomercial about early menopause affecting 1 in 4 women as young as 34. Like what she almost is. And thus, plot. 34 is not the cutoff, and it's not 1 in 4 either. This doctor is intentionally written as dodgy, and Georgina soon goes to find out. To his private clinic. In the UK, where we have a National Health Service called the National Health Service. Again, we need to believe that she'd believe him for the plot to unfold. She takes her sassy, sarcastic sidekick Clem, in whom Dr. Dupont, yes, that's their impression of a French name, it's the French for of pump, takes immediate interest.
Very healthy young lady. Miss Clem, do you have des enfants?
What?
So that's a fertility doctor there who doesn't know the English word for children. Clem is a gem. I need my own Clem, but I'm pretty sure I'm everyone else's Clem. She
No,
doesn't
not
have
even
des
Dave's
enfants
goldfish.
because
don't
she's
want
too
to ruin
vain
my
about her
physique.
body,
Such a
which
pity.
is also why
So,
she doesn't have goldfish.
Down to business?
Dupont is definitely the kind of fertility doctor who would replace the whole sperm bank with his own supply, but I guess that scene got deleted. It turns out that Georgina's down to
Woman
one
is
ova.
born with a definitive number of ova. And then the shop shuts. I can see only one ovum.
So if she wants to get pregnant, she has to get as spermed up as possible when she next ovulates. Depending on the year, she might have the Monday off for Easter. Fertility holiday. And her boyfriend is away and they've fallen out. What a caper! And thus, plot. Yep, this is a film about trying to trick men into reproductive sex. A light-hearted rom-com where deceptive sex and non-consensual fatherhood is all part of the fun. There's this grand cognitive dissonance between the actual story and the tone of it. The same plot could have been presented as a kind of amoral, Always Sunny in Philadelphia kind of thing, and that would have worked much better. But no, it doesn't really question her. The film does have grains of empathy. It shows Georgia's anxiety that she'll never be a mother, and I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that. But it does this by diminishing her off-screen aunt with some quite insulting punchlines.
Even as young as 34.
Just like poor old Harriet.
Auntie Harry? Harry? I thought she was just a lesbian.
Yes, dear.
I'm 33 years old, and early menopause runs in my family. My mom's a good Catholic, I'm an only child, and Auntie Harry has a moustache. Do the maths.
Sigh. For the film to demonstrate that it's technically capable of some morality, for it to signal such a virtue, and then only use this to waive the immorality of her resultant acts, makes it really similar to loads of male-led stories. So, this film's working title was Buy, Borrow, Steal. Now, when you realize that the phrase is pertaining to sperm, buy, wait, borrow, wait, steal, wait, borrow, steal, wait, borrow, buy, borrow, steal.
Dr. Dupont, can't you just, take it out and put it in a lovely little container and cryogenically freeze it for later?
Madame, it's not a sorbet.
Wait, Doctor, that stuff does work. It's a Hail Virgin Mary, but it's better than doing a sperm whip round at the local gentleman's club, which is basically her plan. The doctor does also offer them a brochure for Sperm Direct, which is a brilliant pun on the UK training initiative Learn Direct. You see, the sperm is almost definitely direct from Dupont's Dupont.
I don't want sperm, I want a baby.
I think that line's meant to be resonant rather than really ignorant.
Do you remember when we were 14 and the dentist said that you needed braces? And we said that we were going to go get 10-second opinions, and we did go get 10-second opinions, and all the dentists said that you needed braces.
Clem seems to be from that bit of London that's in South Africa. You won't see anything about adoption in this film. Her doctor's advice is to soak in sperm, and that's what she's now determined to do. So, before Zach leaves the country, Georgina tries to call him, and his devious assistant cancels the call. He was in the room. He'll see that she denied the call.
Can you let me know if Georgina calls?
I thought you guys broke up.
Line. Alexandra also intercepts her workplace visit to say that Zach has already gone.
He left for Ireland this morning.
That's impossible. No.
I'll be joining him tomorrow, though. He's booked us this quaint little B&B in the middle of nowhere. Just each other. For warmth.
Are you and Zach?
Hello, Daddy?
And hence plot. Now, that's enough setup. Now it's time for shenanigans, and you probably want some hand sanitizer. Along with Clem and gay best friend, I need my own gay best friend, Georgina formulates a plan. A semen-y plan.
What about sexy plan?
It's not ethical.
What, to have sex with a colleague with whom you have established sexual tension and mutual attraction and a history of flirting, or to con someone into fatherhood? Which bit of that is unethical?
What about a wedding? A wedding. Because everyone's really pissed and there's loads of love in the room.
A funeral.
That's sick. I love it.
Yeah, think about it, because at a funeral, there are a lot of vulnerable men.
Right.
Overwhelmed with emotion and not thinking too straight. Some alcohol. Gorgeous Georgie. Easy pickings.
On day one, you are going to lure a really sexy, hand-picked stranger back to your apartment. Then on day two, if you haven't shagged, then you go to a very chic, tasteful burial. The dead man can be no older than 40, because he'll have loads of really sad, lonely friends he'll have to comfort. On day three, darling, if you haven't shagged by then, we'll just have to go to some club, you know, and you'll just take the first randy stranger.
And if they get to day 4, which people don't know for certain if they're prangate immediately after sex. Apparently day 4 is down to gay best friend, who is gay last time I checked, and really doesn't seem to consent to this.
So Lizzie decided she needed to get a lodger.
Right.
She puts one ad in the post, and the first guy that walks in, within 10 seconds flat, they're having sex all over the apartment. So I was thinking...
No, that's it. Day one, we advertise your house to let by luring the sexy stranger to your house.
Luring. Clem is sociopathic. They've taken the Phoebe Buffay archetype and doubled it. I would completely decry Clem if she weren't this movie's one source of fun.
Hello, yes, this is, yes, it would suit a young professional person.
Terribly bad line. Dark, handsome males in prime physical condition. Darling, what's all this?
I thought I'd make a clever casual reference to them and see how compatible we are.
Darling, you're not going to marry them. You want their sperm.
This plan is really lacking in long-term thinking. Like, her end game is conception and not the lifetime of parenting with a father you manipulated into it. We don't know if she plans single parenting or paternity fraud, or... that bit doesn't matter to the film. So, Georgina's house is advertised for sale, just for this. What a really complex first idea. Why not just, like, walk past a construction site, wait for the first catcaller, and then shag him? That's what I do. Clem and gay best friend wait outside to intercept any ugly candidates. Seriously. This is shown to us when a long-haired, long-faced, 5'9"-ish thin man in dark, drapey clothing turns up.
Another dog.
No! We asked for handsome professional males. I'm so sorry, but it's been rented by me and my fiancé.
None taken. Then the next guy is too gay-seeming.
Did you not put straight in the ad?
None taken. Is the demographic of a single man who could actually afford to live here not elitist enough?
Hello, soldier.
Here's the victim then.
Hi. Bob Tushy.
Men in TV and film are always seen deceiving people to get sex, and it's often meant to be funny or aspirational. Here, the same plot is done with a straight woman. They're not quite moral equivalents, as she's not lying about who she is, but what she wants from it. I don't know how she plans to talk them out of using contraception, but apparently that's easy enough with straight men. This is a horrible moral question, but the film does not treat it as one. It's all just part of the fun. I guess we'll get around to answering the morality when she actually gets her fuck on. Georgina instantly charms Bob because the plot requires it. Is looking at houses a down-low casual sex industry? Seriously, I don't know. To disarm Bob, she says she's about to be relocated.
I've been headhunted to head up the head office. It's very exciting stuff.
So where's head office?
Anywhere nice?
Kazakhstan.
Ah yes, that's just between Kazakhstan and Fahuagats. So that's the head office of Salt Construction promoting Georgina Salt to their head office in Kazakhstan.
It's very hush-hush on the QT, but I'll probably be killed while I'm away.
You know, nothing turns me on quite like dying. C'est le grand mot. Her hookup with Tushy is quashed by necessity of the plot and an answer phone message from Zack saying the exact same sounds multiple times.
Georgina, darling, it's me. Baby, if you're there, can you pick up, please? Hello? Darling, it's me. Baby, if you're there, can you pick up, please?
He's a replicant.
Zack!
Darling?
Oh God, thank God. I'm so glad you called. Hang on a minute. Zack!
But Alexandra has a cunning plan for this.
Jackie, honey, can you zip me up? What? I only asked if you could zip me up.
She is such an unlikely, convenient nemesis. Alexandra and Dupont act like no human ever because their contrived actions are necessary for the story this film wants to tell. Georgina needs to be on fuck countdown, and Zack needs to be removed from the equation. As it's obviously now time for an emotion, Clem opens up about her abortion a decade ago.
Did you know that I was pregnant?
And she's shown to be the most shallow woman imaginable.
I was so scared. I don't want to get fat. I still want to go to parties. And I want to wear short dresses, so I made the decision. It was gone.
I do not know if this is going for any real pathos or if it's meant to be a satire of female selfishness, but whichever way, she's justified. The moral requirement for having an abortion is someone being pregnant who doesn't want to be. That's all. You know, if you present any story that involves the intimate sadness of women or men, there is room for that story to be interpreted as a criticism of how we're gendered. Try it yourself, it's lots of fun. Misconception is not a shining example of this, but it's there. This film's got everything. Right back to the conning people into sex.
I am a fertile female with fecundity and fruitfulness.
Same. Well, it's funeral day. Dressing in black is sexy. It is way too early in the film for something to go according to plan, and let's not drag it out. The punchline here is this is a gay funeral, as evidenced by the disco of young men making out. Because that's what a gay funeral looks like. Whenever this film can't think of a plot device, it just goes, gay men. I've not been to many gay funerals, but I don't think this is the average vibe. Hey! So yeah, a man popular in the gay community died. I wonder if he was hung. Luckily, Georgina finds the one non-gay man in attendance.
Do you like disco dancing?
My girlfriend, or my ex-girlfriend, said I danced like I had a poker up my ass, which kind of put me off.
This guy gets it. If women always read you as gay, you just need to mention a female ex as soon as possible without it seeming like you're still hung up on her. And if you can communicate in the very same sentence that you don't really want things up your ass, then great work. She chats him up using her hot, straight female privilege. You know, where being terrible at everything doesn't make you any less charming because her body meets the entry requirements. She takes him home from the funeral for sex, after funeral sex. But before they get down to after funeral sex, he discovers her big plan, labelled with plan in big. Burial bash there. That sounds like a graveyard smash. Must have numerous sad young friends. Hey, girl!
What kind of sick person are you?
Understandably, he storms out, presuming her to be some kind of sex pest. Correctly. He leaves without either chewing her out or even sufficiently chewing her out. And though this is a thorough indictment of the film's very plot, he doesn't go into any detail and it doesn't have any consequences. He just lets her and the writers get on with it. Next, on day 3, it's really setting in. On a supermarket trip, she hallucinates that all of the men are naked, and, conventionally attractive 30-somethings. And men doing the shopping. Men with shoulder tattoos, that's a good hallucination detail. This is not my local Lidl. Conveniently, Zach's documentary is in an Irish nunnery, where a sweet little nun convinces him that giving up on reproduction is the ultimate sacrifice for a woman. I mean, in her case, the sacrifice is pointless, although pontifical. All from what they're taught from childhood as if it were fact by a patriarchal system. Many of them are sexually abused and oh no, she's just a plot device for him to realize that he owes Georgina a child, which he doesn't. And now Zach's hurrying home to save his relationship, with the urgency of someone following their erection desperately to get some sperm onto an egg within 2 days. But he's not actually aware of that side of things. He's just hurrying because it's getting toward the end of the film. The character Alexandra was set up as a pretty loathsome saboteur, and she's gone now. We don't see her again. Bye. Georgina's checking out the sperm donor site.
Loads and loads of potential daddies.
You're telling me. At least she's open to black men.
450 looks good. He's German, Scottish and Italian. That's sort of nice.
No. Your baby will then work really hard at making loads of teeny-weeny little pizzas. Look, what about there? Number 4, that one.
I do not know what Clem is on, but I want some. And it's just lovely how she gets away with seeming like a kind of magical elf rather than a social terrorist.
Happy! We're going to be happy now!
To get into a nightclub, they construct a European prostitute's ruse.
Ignita's sad. She not want to go back to Stockholm.
Where you going?
Because they couldn't just get into a nightclub on the grounds of being beautiful young women or adult humans. What is this plot point? And she pursues the James Franco up on the podium rather than, like, anyone else. Her first attempt at a seductive dance is pretty relatable. Then, that was quick. And it's a ruse. He robs her. And he was also needlessly doing an unconvincing European character. Is that this nightclub's theme?
Yeah, Colin. I'll be outside in 2 minutes, mate.
Alright, see you then. There's a sound in the background for this shot, and I'm not sure what it's meant to represent. Back to the internet semen then. They're off shopping for a turkey baster, because you need that for insemination, and Sperm Direct doesn't provide all the kit.
You're well-organised girls. Come in handy for Christmas there.
Coming in handy will be no use to us, ladies.
Clem, that was brilliant! I mean, I wrote the very same joke before I saw this film, but that's because it's a brilliant joke.
He's talking to me. Hello. And what do you do? Oh, he bastes turkeys. That's really fascinating.
Georgina tells sexy Brian that she's single now and horny, and they steamroll their sexual tension and almost each other. But then...
Hey, don't worry about precautions. I'm infertile.
What?
And all of a sudden, tricking someone into sex isn't worth the trick if they're not putting a lifetime of non-consensual fatherhood into it. The film seems to ground its morals around how she technically doesn't end up fucking anyone but Zach. But what about the men's rights? Ugh, I need some mouthwash. The sperm arrives.
And use it before it separates.
That came quickly. I guess they're on Sperm Prime. Georgina's just getting it ready when the most artificial 3/4 through the film cum joke is done.
Georgina?
Sigh. Look, it's on the cake, but it's disgusting. You see, like in a gross-out comedy film, which this is suddenly trying to be. It's nearly really gross because it's on food, but the mother doesn't swallow it.
Oh dear. The icing's not dry. I'll just pop it in the fridge. Should we have a piece now, to tell you the truth?
No,
I feel quite peckish.
Sigh. The cake goes away, this bit is done, though I do wonder if there was egg in that cake.
Never thought that it would come to this.
No, me, I didn't.
Oh, darling. If I had the necessary machinery, I'd step in and I'd do it. No, I haven't got it. So I can't do it. And I want you to remember that it is a far greater thing that you do today than what is it? I don't know.
More Clem, please. She is hilarious when she's coaxing someone into sex they clearly don't want, with lifelong consequences of responsibility.
Look, I know it's awkward, but I want you to know I'm really grateful.
Oh my God! George Michael has just called me on this telephone, and he said that he wants me to do his costumes for his next tour.
What?
Yes, and I have to go.
I want that spot so you get back in there.
It's a huge responsibility. I can't have a baby with you because Clem ordered me to.
Then she assaults him, going for his dick. You know, sexual assault. They're conveniently spotted just in time, and she's thrown out of the hotel for sexual assault. Our poor heroine. And she goes and tells Scottish Ben how she just wants Zach back. Then he's back, and he misinterprets this as an affair and beats up Ben. This is the guy whose kids you want? This last-minute conflict is the fakest bit yet. They just hugged.
You're getting this all wrong. Oh, really?
And this is resolved by...
I'm telling you all in all, I don't fancy Georgina. She's alright, but, you know, she's not Clem, is she?
the sidekicks pairing off. You know, the independent, self-absorbed, ray of sunlight female sidekick and the hateful laddie incel. When's the wedding? But sadly for Georgina's last egg, it's too late. Except 4 months later, and it doesn't say how many periods later, she discovers she's pockmarked via the age-old test of booby pain. The film does not get into the conceptual logistics of, like, how its one goal got satisfied. Just apparently it worked. So the whole plot of the film was inconsequential, which is realistic because pointless, no-stakes things happen all the time. We just don't make films about them. Georgina lets Zach know she's pranjate at a party full of people. Well, it's a happy ending and nobody got raped. I have to guess that there's an audience for this kind of prognatory by any means plot. The Wikipedia plot summary is rabidly detailed. You could have just read that. The film was not a success, and I'm not sure it was meant to be. Its tone and budget feel a lot more like a TV sitcom, and it was basically straight to DVD. So, sadly, we're unlikely to see a sequel tracking her 9 months of pragmatism, and we'll never know for sure how Georgina spends the rest of her life. This being a rom-com, we'll have to assume that it's happy ever after, and she stays rich, and they never speak of this again. Zach never finds out about her dodgy plans. Look, the acting's good, the dialogue occasionally flows, it's joyful. You could say this film is harmless schlock, if not for all the harm in what its plot trivializes. The morals of this film are so remote, it's just... nope. It's poorly conceived. I guess it's the logical extreme of the girl power version of the rom-com. Rom-coms are generally about deceiving and exploiting people. For decades, films have celebrated deceit as romantic and cute, and this film is trying to do that for women who are anxious to have children, and it just happens to be a step too far. Well, several steps too far, but, you know, baby steps. That is seriously the best ender punchline I could come up with. Thank you.
Sperm.